All right, everybody. We will call to order the meeting of the Transportation Subcommittee of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. We'll have Jason Powell will be presenting sort of the budget amendments and the options on things, and we can discuss them and sort of see how we move forward on getting things prepared for a budget that's got to be presented on Sunday. So, could we call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Senator McClellan.
Here.
Senator Marsden. Here. Senator Deeds. Senator Newman.
Here.
Senator Hanger. Here. Senator Saslaw. Senator Barker.
Here.
Quorum, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Take it away, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Give me a moment to share my screen here. The good news is tonight before you, you have only 15 budget amendments requested by members. They're on the spreadsheet that I've handed out. And of those 15, approximately 5 of them are unnecessary due to legislation that is making its way through the body. On line 1, Senator Stewart had a request at the Department of Aviation to reflect the provisions of legislation that would have required or would have reduced significantly revenues to the Department of Aviation. That bill has been amended and it no longer has a fiscal impact. On line 2, Senator Favola is requesting language that would direct DMV to evaluate the need for training motorcycles used on closed courses to not require a motorcycle inspection. On line 3, Senator Survell is requesting $300,000 in the second year for a driver privilege card grant program to provide multilingual instruction for documents check and pre-review and knowledge test preparation under the driver privilege card grant program. On line 4, Senator Eben is requesting $30 million and a one-time general fund allocation to be allocated to the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission to be distributed amongst the NVTC jurisdictions to help support the operating obligations to Metro. On line 5, Senator Saslaw is requesting a simple language change that would move the participation in the Mobility Talks International Conference from this year to next year, as this year's conference was not held. On line 6, Senator Lewis is requesting that VDOT report annually on the status of transportation infrastructure that is risk to inundation from sea level rise and actions taken to mitigate this risk pursuant to a study currently being undertaken by VIMS. On line 7, Senator Saslaw is requesting $10 million to be provided to the Transportation Partnership Opportunity Fund for an urban infrastructure test bed in partnership with the City of Falls Church and Virginia Tech. On line 8, Senator Ruff is requesting $250,000 from the general fund for completion of a segment of the Tobacco Heritage Bike Trail in Mecklenburg County. On line 9, Senator Stanley is requesting language that would direct the construction of the Martinsville Southern Connector using the regional collection of taxes generated from the gaming industry and the marijuana industry in the planning district for the road. On line 10, Senator Deeds is requesting language that would require VDOT notify businesses via electronic, telephone, or mail, or through local media if the department lowers the prescribed weight for any bridge or combination of bridges on the interstate primary or secondary system of highways. On line 11, Senator Bell had funding requests that accompanied his Senate Bill 1260. The bill had no fiscal impact statement, or had no fiscal impact. On lines 12 and 13, Senator Saslaw and Senator Eben are requesting funding of approximately $4 million in each year for the restoration of maintenance funds to the urban localities. This funding was not available because of the impact of the COVID pandemic on highway revenues. On line 14, Senator Bell had requested funding to accompany Senate Bill 1259, which had no fiscal impact. And on line 15, Senator Lewis is requesting an increase of $1.5 million each year to the Waterways Maintenance Fund. If the amendment is adopted, it would require $1.5 million be transferred from the general fund to the Waterways Maintenance Fund. Mr. Chairman, that completes the overview of the member requests. In light of the time, if there are no questions, I have nothing else.
All right. Opportunity for questions now. so that everybody understands sort of what we'll be dealing with when we finalize decisions on these types of things? Are there any of the items that Jason has referred to, out of these 15, that you have questions about, or any comments on them? All right. Are there any comments that anyone wants to make related to any of the issues that will be before us in putting together the Senate budget? Well, I will address a couple of these that I think are worth making sure everybody understands sort of how things are stacking up right now. The number 4 item was funds provided to the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission to help with the metro obligations of the localities in Northern Virginia that are part of the Metro Compact, which includes Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax County, Fairfax City, and Loudoun County. $30 million in one-time monies that's requested. However, we are in a situation where to meet our obligation for the capital needs of Metro, and we reached a 10-year agreement with Maryland and D.C. on that a couple of years ago. We're supposed to be providing $154 million to $155 million each year. The funding sources that we've identified and that have been providing us those revenues are off a little bit, primarily because of reduction in the hotel tax, the transit occupancy taxes that have been paid to the jurisdictions that are part of the Northern Virginia transportation market there and part of the metro system. This year they're off, and so we have about a $22 million shortfall. So that will take, obviously, the top priority there, which would basically put in real question anything going beyond that related to what Senator Eben has proposed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Yes, Senator Hanger.
Question on that. I know the obligation is there, and I'm not totally familiar with it, but I was aware of a release last week, I believe, where the feds were stepping up with a significant amount. Excuse me. I'm not intimately familiar with it. I do know the funding sources that we've provided there, but last week I saw a newspaper publication that said that the feds were stepping up to replace some of the lost revenue there in a significant way. Is there any way that money could possibly use to meet part of our obligation?
I think what you're referring to what was in the newspaper recently was as part of the stimulus bill that passed into Congress and was signed into law, I think, on December 27th. That does include a substantial amount of money for transit systems all across the country, and there are certain transit systems, of which Metro is one, that receive significant amounts of money from that. The Metro system has been buffeted by low ridership, to say the least, because people didn't want to be sitting next to someone and that didn't know their status as it related to COVID infections, et cetera. So that's been a common problem with the transit systems all across the country. So consequently, the operating costs have not been met there with the fare revenues. Historically, fare revenues covered nearly all of the operating costs of the Metro system. They've declined in relative terms, in terms of the percentage at least, over the last 8 or 9 years, to where a point now where it's a good bit less than the 90% that it used to be. But suddenly it's plummeted down to closer to 50%. So the funds that will be coming from the feds as a result of that stimulus package will be going to the system itself and not paying for the shares of localities within the Metro Compact there. So the Northern Virginia jurisdictions that are part of the Metro system will not be getting funds to allow that to cover their cost that's built into the agreements that are established already on that. So that won't provide that relief. This $30 million is part of the regular operating support that's provided from the jurisdictions. And so this is not an unusual type of thing, that is requested from the localities here. Are there any other questions or comments on that? All right. A second item that I think is significant, that I think everybody needs to understand, and is something that we'll certainly will be considering as we're making decisions on things, is what's number 7, which is from Senator Saslaw. It's proposing $10 million to go to an opportunity fund for transportation that will deals with a relatively small project to provide an additional roadway and other support things that is basically in the area between George Mason High School in Falls Church City, right there on Route 7 at Haycock Road, and the Virginia Tech campus, which is right behind that. Used to be a combined campus between UVA and Virginia Tech. It's now the Northern Virginia, one of the Northern Virginia operations of the Virginia Tech there, and then the metro station, which is the West Falls Church station, that is back behind that. So it has in it an integrated system there. There's a design for a roadway that can also support some additional residential and business business development in that area that's there. The state is being asked to put up $10 million to help provide the aggregate funding that is necessary there.
Mr. Chair, is this the Northern Virginia version of the SMART Road?
No.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Senator Deeds. Actually, Senator Saslaw has been working on the project, speaking about it since August of 2019, 2020 range. It's a 5G connected community project, so it's part of an urban redevelopment in the Falls Church campus there at Virginia Tech, and it will be sort of an augmented roadway. It's a short segment for passenger vehicles, transit shuttles. It will also be sort of connected infrastructure throughout the buildings located there on the Virginia Tech campus as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So this won't have anything to do with aiding and assisting driverless vehicles?
No, Mr. Chair, this will certainly have lots of things to do with aiding and assisting driverless vehicles.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir. Senator Marsden, this is entirely about aiding driverless wireless vehicles. It's a 5G connected community.
Thank you.
Okay. So that is a significant issue that we will need to take a look at as we're making decisions on what to support there. I'm not as familiar exactly how this stacks up with the normal situation, but the items on lines 12 and 13, which are identical, would provide a little over $4 million for each of the 2 years of the biennium to provide funding that is sort of block grant funding to cities and towns that maintain their own road systems. Counties, essentially, rather than, I guess, 2 within Virginia, they're part of the state system and therefore are paid for by through the VDOT systems there. Do you have any further information on that, Jason, as it relates to those 2 particular items?
Mr. Chairman, on the maintenance payments to localities items, that would be the amount that was contemplated when the legislation was passed, the omnibus funding legislation was passed, but it is the amount that did not materialize as the result of the economic downturn. Okay. So it is a policy choice. You can certainly make policy choices with respect to the allocation in the budget.
And is this these amounts of a little over $4 million each year? Is that aggregate for all cities and towns? Or is it only?
I know that it is in the item for all of is the item that is the payments to the cities and the counties. I'd have to pull it up to see whether or not it covers both, but I believe that it does.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Senator Newman.
So, Jason, what is the non-general fund? Is it the trust fund, or what is the non-general fund?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Newman, yes, it would be a reallocation from one of the other items in transportation. You'd have to either reduce construction or one of the other items to do the increase. It doesn't have a revenue source behind it other than the Commonwealth Transportation Fund.
Any further questions on that? Okay, if you could get us information as to, is this covering all of the shortfall based upon what had been anticipated in terms of revenues that would be going to the maintenance of city and town roadways that are maintained by them, or how this...
Chairman, I will follow up. I had been in conversation with the lobbyists from the VML and VACO today on this item, on whether or not it would be discussed, and yes, it is being discussed, so I'm sure he will follow up to make sure that that is complete.
All right. All right. Are there other issues that anybody wants to bring forward on in terms of what we will be looking at? Anybody has any others? I do have, I guess, one or two additional items that I think we'll need to look at. One is that there is a proposal in the introduced budget from the governor for, I think it's $50 million related to the Roanoke train situation and to increase capacity down into that region and to eventually then extend the passenger rail from Roanoke down to Christiansburg. So that's what we're working on and trying to develop long term. Just so everybody knows, the lines to Lynchburg and trains to Lynchburg and Roanoke have been extraordinarily successful, and the trains that go from Roanoke actually pay the fares that cover the full operating cost of that system. What's going to be contemplated is some things that are done down in that region of Virginia, and then and they've also put into the budget, I think, an application that relates to Smart Scale, looking at another $50 million to be funded from that pot of money that is there, which would help move us towards more aggressively moving to adding another train per day to and from Roanoke, going all the way up to D.C., and we cut over through Lynchburg and up that route there to get there, and then to work on putting together a plan to be able to connect from Roanoke down into the Christiansburg area. That right now is proposed to be funded from general funds. One of the things we will, I think, in the end have to look at is sort of whether that's the source that we use for moving forward on that, or whether there are other funds, such as some of the funds that are available through the stimulus package that we can use to help to move in that direction. So anything further you want to say on that, Jason? Or?
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman, you brought up I think the final concluding point on the topic, which would be that the last thing that would be remaining to be discussed is approximately $250 million in undesignated federal highway funding that's available through the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplement Appropriations Act. So that certainly does provide an opportunity to have options.
Yeah, so that gives us some options, and there's $250 million that basically was sort of the Mark Warner piece, since he was leading a lot of the development of that stimulus package that was developed in December, passed in Congress, and then signed by the president between Christmas and New Year's. So he did put in $250 million in transportation monies for Virginia. And that's not allocated to any particular projects. We have the discretion as to sort of how we do things, and obviously some of the things, just to make sure we'll be in compliance with the language that's in that stimulus package, might mean moving other funds around, but there's clearly a way to be able to address this issue and help us in developing things to get to the expansion of rail service to Roanoke, and eventually developing the connection where there is an existing rail line that goes from Roanoke down to Christiansburg that could be used to develop, get the further aspect on things. And if we're going from additional trains into Roanoke, then it does raise the issue that Senator Newman had raised recently about if you're stopping in Lynchburg and then you're stopping in Roanoke, is there a way to build into a capacity in Bedford or somewhere along the way? So that's sort of where we are on everything. Is there anything else anybody wants to bring up for today's meeting?
Well, on that last subject, Mr. Chairman, that relief fund that came through from the feds, could that 22 million that's going to supplant the Metro deficit, could that come from that pot?
That is an option, yes. Yeah, the stimulus monies are being looked at for that $22 million makeup. And that's appropriate, I think, in this particular situation because the $22 million gap is because of the virus and what it's done to travel and use of hotels in the Northern Virginia area. So that has really been what has generated it. So the expectation from me, and I assume most other people, would be that once the vaccine is in place pretty much across the board and we no longer have large numbers of new cases of COVID-19 and the resulting effects that it would have, and both in terms of the medical side of thing, the health side of thing, but also what it would do to the economic situation. I assume there's going to be a lot of people who have not been traveling and not been going on vacations and doing other types of things that will return to a more normal thing. So I think that $22 million in future years will be made up, but this will help cover us for the fiscal 22 situation. Anything further? All right. Well, we will sort of after meeting tomorrow, the fourth floor session tomorrow, probably have a briefer meeting sort of to go over all these, give everybody time to think about, what they want to do about some of the options there and the items that we've discussed in a little more detail, and make decisions about how to proceed with what we put in the budget here. So, all right. And if there's nothing further, anything further you have, Jason?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening.
All right, we're glad to see Jason in person this time rather than just on the Zoom meetings. So thank you very much, and we are adjourned. So.